And I think, yeah, these people, let's find out what's our deal. People to mute. Okay. All right, so welcome everybody. We will start 6:01. First class of the new year. Thank you so much for all of you joining. We're going to talk about inflammation today. As usual, we will just do a small prayer and invoke Lord Dhanvantari. Let's close our eyes. Namami Dhanvantarim Adidevam Surasurairvandita Padapadmam Loke Jararukbhayamrutyunasham Dhataramisham Vividhaushadhinam Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Maheshwaraha Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. All right. So welcome everybody. Okay, so this week we're going to be continuing inflammation. I know we have a few folks that joined last time or continuing on this time, and we have a few new folks. So I'm going to just give a brief brief review of what we spoke about in the last class. It was more about comparing inflammation towards global warming. So whatever is happening outside is happening inside as well, inside our bodies, exactly what is happening. So why are we comparing that? Because the gut microbiome has been changing. Just like how the universe has been changing, the gut microbiome has been changing. And when gut microbiome changes, then of course the universe around it, the mucosal layer changes. The heat increases. The global warming, however, is increasing. The heat inside the body has been increasing. And that's why we're seeing a lot of new emerging inflammatory conditions, autoimmune conditions, and all of that. Just like how global warming is a threat to the planet, chronic inflammation is a threat to our body as well. So what is inflammation that we spoke about in the last class? It is how our body is eternally, it is like a response to an injury. You know, when you have an injury, when there is a wound, you notice that there is pus that's formed, you know, all the body's immunity will come in to protect that area. So it sends an army of white blood cells, pathogens, macrophages, everything to make sure that this body is protected. This place is protected. The wounded area is protected. The same thing is happening with the inflammation as well. However, it's just becoming chronic, and that is becoming low grade. So your body is constantly on a fighting mode, which means it is constantly being inflamed. That is really what has been happening. And what are the symptoms that we're noticing when the inflammation is happening, which is going to be pain, low-grade fever. You'll also notice that there is inflammation, which is swelling that you notice in the body. And you will also notice that there is some level of redness. So these are some level of external things that you notice. And internally, you'll notice it as ulcers and all of that things. So exactly whatever is happening with the injury outside is happening inside in our body. Yeah. So what are the conditions that can lead to inflammation? What are the things that can lead to inflammation? What are few things that we typically follow on our modern day things that can lead to inflammation? Can anybody give me a guess of what are a few things that you think of that can lead to this chronic low-grade heat that is present in the body? I think we touched about it in the class last time. If you all remember, it's okay, it's not a test. If you all remember, or if you all know, if you all guess, you're more than welcome to do so. Eating ultra processed food, you get a point, Lavanya. Absolutely. That's my first thing. That is considered as close to what we call gara visha. Gara visha is like a slow poison. So your body has to start to break it down, because this ultra processed food does not have life force to it. Any food that you give inside your body, along with its life force, is going to interact with the life force of the body and break it down. Now, this ultra processed food does not have it, and it is considered to be a garavisha, which is a slow poison. Absolutely good. Fermented foods, yes, to an extent, depending on what the level of fermentation is that you're consuming. Absolutely right. Anything else?
Basically everything, right? Disruption in our sleep schedule and disruption in the time that we eat and all of that.
Absolutely right. That's
Everything.
basically everything that we're doing modern day. That's right. So yeah, so eating wrong combination of foods, absolutely right. You get another point, Shankar, also. Yes, a wrong combination of foods are some things like we spoke about incompatible food combinations, eating smoothies with cold milk. This is the biggest combination that comes into the clinic. And unfortunately, we're all consuming thinking that it is the right thing to do. That is the sad part of it. It's like you drink cold milk along with a banana, berries, nuts, dates, and consume it in the morning. So it is like a perfect combination for you to increase mucosal content in the body. And because this mucosal content has increased, your body is not knowing how to break down. And because it's not knowing how to break down, that latent heat is produced in the body. So yes, that's the third thing. And we're talking about, we'll talk, about foods first. We'll come back to the sleeping. That's the vihara hetus. That's like the lifestyle hetus, but lifestyle causative factors. But we'll talk about the food causative factors. We spoke about ultra processed food. We spoke about fermented foods, and we spoke about wrong combinations. The next thing that I would like to talk about is a processed sugar. This processed sugar, because it does not have any calorific content to it, raw sugar is okay. You can do rock sugar, which is mishri, which has ability to break down, is okay. But again, raw sugar, the highly processed white sugar, is something that should be avoided as well. A very important thing is the refined flour. When I ask my clients to go on a flour free, like a white sugar and white flour free diet for 30 days, actually I get a report back saying sugar is easier than flour, because it is present almost in everything. You eat noodles, you have white flour. You eat pasta, you have white flour. You eat bagel, you eat bread, so it's like it has become almost a part of our life. So being aware of how much it is being added to our diet without us even knowing is extremely important. So this white flour becomes very sticky. So this sticky white flour will not be able to travel through the channels, right? So when it's not able to travel through the channels, it gets stuck to the channels. And when it gets stuck to the channels, that's when plaque is formed. And when plaque is formed, it gets hardened, and a lesion can be formed later. So an inflammation can be formed to fight that plaque. So multiple things can happen because of this accumulation of what we call pishta anna, which is the white flour. Then the other important thing is the additives and preservatives that are added to the food, like the food colorings that are added. You go to a restaurant and you see the color of the food and you're like, I lose my appetite when I see it. That much amount of food coloring is added. And remember, these are all storing. This all comes under Garavisha also. This adds to the inflammation as well, right? Then heavy dinners. This also becomes very common for all of us, because at lunchtime we are not able to sit down with family, and we're automatically at dinners, we want to enjoy dinner and heavy dinners, because that's the time for winding down. Our digestive system also is winding down. But instead, we choose to have heavy dinners. And that can also lead to inflammation. Yeah. The next important thing is refrigerated foods, stale and refrigerated foods. Why so? And this might be a question mark for everybody. They're like, well, we're preserving food. And what happens with the stale and refrigerated food? Again, when we spoke about the processed, ultra processed foods, we spoke about an entity called life force. This life force is reducing in foods that you are adding to the refrigerator. When that happens, then definitely you are not able to process it because the life force is reducing and you're just adding calories that are not able to be broken down, and you're not going to be, sorry, I'm going to just mute. Okay. So you're not going to be able to break it down. So stale and refrigerated food for the purpose of having life force is also very important. Yeah. Then another thing is abuse of medication, taking lots of medication, right? If we have fever, we want to suppress it. If we get hurt, like just 2 days back, my son got hurt at a baseball game. The ball just came and hit his ankle and it was all swollen fully. Typically, what would have happened is giving ibuprofen and painkillers to make sure that the inflammation goes down and make sure that the pain goes down can happen, but that's again suppressing directly. So what we chose instead is we did something called a dhara, which is pouring of a warm medicated oil for 40 minutes continuously on that area, and we applied some lepas on that area, which is some medicated paste on the area to reduce the inflammation as well. And we changed the diet in such a way that it is easier to digest. And 2 days later, he started playing again. So again, the reason I'm explaining this is watch out if we are unnecessarily adding any of these medications. If it is necessary, absolutely. I'm not saying I'm against taking medication. Absolutely, you have to. But watch out if you're unnecessarily taking that. Then this is another important thing. Excessive caffeine and alcohol as well will increase. I mean, for obvious reasons, that can also increase your heat in the body. Excessive snacking. This in Ayurveda is called as adhyashana. Just today, I was talking to someone who said that who wanted to increase their absorption capacity. And they started eating from 5 in the morning till later in the dinner, every 2 hours, just because they thought that the nutrients were not enough and were feeling weak. This in Ayurveda is termed as adhyashana, which means you're eating food before the previous food was not being digested, right? If without the previous food not being digested, you add a new food, then the digestive fire will start to process the new food, no? Then this old food will stay fermented, will stay back without being digested. Then you add again, then you add again. This becomes old mala, which is called Purana mala. This stays back as fermentation. So making sure that you have proper gap between meals is very, very important. In yoga also they say ekanna is yogi. So if you eat once, you're a yogi. If you eat twice, you're a bhogi, which means you're luxuriously eating things. 3 times if you're eating, you're a rogi itself. Rogi means you're a deceased person if you're eating it for 3 times also. That's what they say in yoga. I mean, of course, with the lifestyle that we're leading, it's not possible for us to just stay with eating once, but it is better to have a proper lunch with sun and like a good dinner, like a normal dinner, and have a small breakfast. That is probably a good thing to do instead of snacking multiple times. Yeah. Is hunger a good indicator that your Agni is good or that previous meal has digested? Absolutely, Debanti. But then again, sometimes what happens is this can be in Samapitta, even though it is not hunger, it can be a fake hunger where there is acidity and burning that is happening. That's Samapitta will give you that indication of fake hunger. So you have to watch out for all the symptoms of lightness. You have to notice that there is no burps of your previous food, and that there is, the urination and bowel movements are happening the way they're supposed to. Then you know that this is actually proper hunger. And after you eat your meal, you have to be satisfied. A lot of times people report that they have hunger, but they're not able to eat a full meal. Once they eat a little bit, then they feel full and they feel bloated. So that can be called as a fake hunger. So we have to be able to identify between both of them. Yeah. And another important thing is eating on the go. We have forgotten that we have to take break and eat your food and then focus on your food. That tan mana bhunjita is the most important thing that Ayurveda says. You're eating with your body and mind, because whatever thoughts are happening during the time that you're eating is going to be digested along with your food. And that is going to be stored in your nervous system. So eating on the go is also, unfortunately, another very important causative factor that can lead to inflammation. So I know, including all of us here, including me, we make these mistakes. So I'm not saying that we have to be saints and stay in the Himalayas and just eat once a day. That is not what I'm saying. It is important for us to identify these causative factors so that we will be able to identify how many times are we making a mistake. Maybe we will be mindful when we go out to a restaurant. What are the kinds of foods that we want to order? Is there food, does this have white flour in it? Is this made out of white sugar? Or if it is made, maybe I can eat less quantity. Maybe I will follow this with warm water. Maybe I know now that the incompatible combinations called smoothies are not actually good for me, so I'll stay away from that. Maybe when they say I have diabetes and I have to be snacking to make sure that I maintain my blood sugar levels, that's probably not the right way to do, but actually eating these meals at the proper times and giving gaps between meals. So these are some important things that we can incorporate in our lifestyle. And then other things sometimes are going to be unavoidable. It's okay. And I also want to let you know that we don't want to be a stickler saying, oh my God, I listened to the class and I just cannot eat this. Oh my God, this is an additive. Then nobody would call you for their parties, for their holiday parties. So then you'll be like, oh my God, I went to Manju's class. I cannot go to parties anymore. I don't want that to happen also, right? So moderation is important. And understanding it is important so that we can pass this knowledge along to our next generation. So that is the food kind of causative factors that are causing inflammation. Now, what are the lifestyle factors? The lifestyle factors, like Debanti originally mentioned, not having sleep, not sleeping at the right time. Because we know that I spoke in previous classes that the free radicals that are produced are being sent out. They are being sent out while we're sleeping. That kind of janitorial thing is not happening if you don't sleep late. I mean, most of the time, this is what I hear. My kids go to bed. That is the only free time I have to relax and enjoy. What are we enjoying? Again, looking at watching TV shows or watching or maybe catching up on work. We do that, but remember that you're compromising on your own health, and you're compromising on your own sleep, and next morning is going to be a same cycle where you're not able to break that cycle. So go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at 5 p.m. So that is if you do this really, then you would have done a lot of change within your own system. Your inflammation would have reduced so much. So that is another important thing. Then overproductivity. We want to be doing everything. I'm a culprit of that also. I cannot say that I am a saint and I don't. So we all get that kick in doing multiple things all the time. So being mindful that it is not necessary. There are many people that can be doing many different things, and being able to delegate and not don't have to be worried about being overproductive. Yeah. Then excessive exercise. This also is a causative factor for aggravation of pitta and vata in the body. Not only not eating well, Ayurveda says Artha Shakti Vyayama. If you're doing more activity than your capacity, then your tissues are depleting. Because in Ayurveda, we say once you start exercising, the undigested food will, the mucosal layer will reduce, your undigested food will reduce. But once that is done, then it is going to affect your own tissues. If the tissues are affected, then they will not be able to fight back. The immunity is going to be lost. Then you're going to be in that constant mode of fighting inflammation. So, Artha Shakti Vyayama means you have to exercise only until half your capacity, which means once you start breathing from your mouth, once you start sweating from your forehead, then stop exercising for that day and then continue the next day and then continue the next day. Then you would have increased your capacity to work out. So excessive exercise is another causative factor. Then excessive screen time is also another causative factor. That we all know why, because we're all exposing, our eyes are being exposed. Eyes are the area for pitta, alochika pitta. And it is constantly getting all of this light energy, which is going to be excessive heat that we are exposing ourselves to. Yeah. Then I also want to talk about these modern day trends that are leading to inflammation. The biggest causative factor that I hear in my clinic every single day, I'm not kidding, every single day. But what about my protein? This is what I hear from child to like 80-year-old also. But what about my protein? So this has become a biggest trend that you have to and you must include protein supplements in your diet for every single meal. The protein powders, the business that is happening with protein powders, with there's plant-based protein, there's so many different varieties of protein powders that are coming, which actually is disrupting our own digestive fire. Remember that the nature and the quality of these protein powders are hot and earthy. It has this hot nature, but it also has a drying nature. So it will make us more brittle. Of course, your muscle is going to grow, but that's not your only tissue in the body. There are 7 tissues in the body. You need your blood to be flowing the way it's supposed to be flowing. You need the plasma to be flowing. You need your fat tissue to be protecting you. You need your strong bone. You need your strong bone marrow, reproductive juices. All of these are also important, equally important. But it is not just the muscle that is important, right? So yes, protein is important. I'm not saying that you should not, but include it as a whole diet. Include your legumes. If you're a meat eater, include your meat in the diet. That's okay. Like a meat soup, bone soup is something that you can include. If you're a vegetarian, include the good amount of lentils in your diet. But do not just say that this is the only thing that I have to eat. If you are a meat eater, I would not say stay away from meat, because this is what your body is used to from generations. And this is how your body is built from generations onwards. So you cannot say that, I'm going to, if for spiritual reasons, if you want to quit, that's okay. But then if you're a meat eater, use it in a proper way. Like a whole protein is important than doing a protein powder. Or use a whole protein like the lentils. You can roast the lentils, the chickpea flour that is available, that you can add, and that's also a whole way of getting protein inside your body. Around 30 grams per meal, they say protein is what builds everything. Yeah, unfortunately, Angela, we need lipids also. We need a bilipid layer. That lipids are also important. And protein is not something that builds the liquid tissue that is present. The liquid tissue, which is the plasma and the blood, is the biggest tissue that is flowing all over our body. And the reproductive juices are very, very, they're very sweet in nature. They cannot be, protein is not responsible for building all of these. Yes, protein is important because it is building so many other things, but it is not the only thing. And it's not necessary that we incorporate that with every meal. And again, if you incorporate it with every meal, use a wholesome protein in the form of lentils, in the form of milk, in the form of ghee, in the form of your chickpea flour, in the form of meat, in the form of bone broth. That is something that I wanted to let you know, but not the processed protein powder. Yeah. And then another biggest trend is, again, this is going to be a big shock for a lot of us here. Apple cider vinegar in the morning is a biggest trend as well. This trend is created because a lot of us have definitely a lot of accumulation in the body. And apple cider vinegar is definitely necessary for cutting down that unnecessary accumulation in the body. But if you continue to use that throughout, then that is again going to cause depletion in the body, and that depletion will lead to inflammation. So you have to use it only until a certain time, and after that purpose is done, then I wouldn't want to use it for a long time. Yeah. Raw salads are another thing. I think I spoke about all of these last class, so I'll just skip through them. Low fat and cold beverages are also another very important modern day health trends. Excessive water intake is also another very, very important trend. And again, I'm just going to skip through it because we've spoken about it last class. If you have any questions about any of these particular things, ask me and I can repeat it. Then medical marijuana and CBD usage as well has been quite rampant. And that much level of usage our bodies are not used to. And fevers that are not treated well, the fevers are now treated only with Tylenol. We're just suppressing our fevers. But if you're just suppressing your fever and not allowing for that heat to go out of the body, then that latent heat will stay back and create inflammation. Right? Again, imagine all of those things staying back and creating latent heat and creating that inflammation in the body. And those are the things that we need to get rid of. Yeah. So that is what our body is doing. It is accumulating all of these waste products. Once it accumulates all of these waste products, it creates the toxic byproducts. And these toxic byproducts and free radicals are being produced. When those are produced, it increases the viscosity of our liquid tissues, which is our blood and plasma. So the heat is increased in our liquid tissues, and these liquid tissues are flowing all over our body. And this, because viscosity is created, now the things that are supposed to go here, we noticed how there could be a blockage that is created on a small channel, artery. Then opposite flow of things can happen. Because of this opposite flow of things, then inflammation will be created. It will activate the immune system. Blockage is going to be created and the immune system is going to be activated. This is the reason for why inflammation is caused. Now, why is it that our bodies are constantly like this and not able to fight back? Again, going back to why we're not sleeping on time. We are not incorporating foods that are necessary to remove them. We are supposed to incorporate foods that can actually create some repair. Like the omega-3 foods, like the ghee is something that actually can repair. A2, cultured ghee, if you can use that is something that can repair whatever inflammation is happening. Because for those of you who know about Ayurveda, if there is pitta that is increased, ghee is the ultimate antidote for pitta. So if you're including proper ghee, then that will automatically take care of this inflammation. You know, one time you go out and you don't sleep well, inflammation is created, but next day you do full body abhyanga, you apply oil all over your body, or you take some ghee, that will take care of the inflammation of that day. But then we're not including that because new cell lining and cell protection is needed, and that is created by ghee. Or including antioxidants, like taking rasayanas like amla and guduchi and turmeric, and these are all the antioxidants that we can include in our diet. Or including things that can scrape off excessive fats that are accumulated, like the fiber, the mung beans that are there that can scrape off the excessive fat, that can also be used. And maintaining the sleep and circadian rhythms. These are also very important, but that's something that we've not been maintaining. So we've not been able to fight the inflammation that is being created. Yeah. So what do we do? Now that we know the problem, what is it that we need to do? 7 things Ayurveda talks about. Dipana, which is making sure your digestive fire is always active. It's a strong digestive fire. Dipana is literally allowing for ignition to happen. That can happen when you're giving ghee, when you're giving things like rice soup, or you're giving things like shunti or dry ginger powder is my favorite that can be given. It's called Vishwa Bheshaja, which means it can be used as a medicine for everything. And yavagu, which is mung soup. These are all the things that can be given that can kindle your digestive fire. Yeah? Amla, do you mean as a part of a regular diet? As you had mentioned, taking supplements long-term is not recommended. So some supplements like amla is actually okay for you to take on a daily basis. And turmeric is also okay to take it on a daily basis. These come under spices category. Turmeric comes under a spices category, and it's okay for you to include that in your cooking. And it is coming as a daily category. And even amla, there are 20 foods that are recommended in Ayurveda that can be taken on a daily basis, and amla is included in that. So it's okay to take it on a daily basis. Guduchi also is okay to an extent, because if you know that you are already experiencing inflammation, then you can use it for about 1 month or 2 months for a particular period of time, so that it will help you with reduction of inflammation. So that is, Deepana. We spoke about Deepana. And the next thing is Pachana. Pachana means removing the unnecessary things that are present in the body. Chand will talk about the 20 foods. Probably next class we'll talk about the 20 foods. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to just mute Kusum and Jit. They just joined. So Pachana is removing the excessive toxins that are present. Deepana is about igniting the fire, because this fire is responsible for breaking down. And then Pachana is removing of excessive fats that are not necessary, or excessive accumulated food, because we spoke about Adhyashana, where we are eating again and again. We're eating heavy foods. So Pachana. Again, Pachana is by giving these proper spices that are added to your foods, like the cumin powder, the coriander powder, the hing, asafoetida that we use in cooking, and adding dry ginger powder to your food, adding ginger to your food, garlic to your food. These are all the pachanas that can be given to your to make sure that it is digesting properly. Or this pachana can be done with an Ayurvedic practitioner who can design a particular bitter, and most likely it is bitter and pungent herbs that will be given to you, that will be taking care of whatever accumulations are happening. Then the next thing is called langhana, which is fasting. This is extremely important when you notice that I have eaten a heavy food. I went for a holiday dinner, or I went for a holiday lunch, and I'm very, very heavy. Then you can fast and you can skip your next meal. Or, every 15 days we have in Hindu calendar, there's something called Ekadashi, and you can fast on that particular day. And the way you fast it is you want to make sure that you're including proper herbal teas during that day. Don't a lot of times I've heard these kind of fastings where you drink lots of coconut water, lots of regular water that will quench down your digestive fire. Make sure that you're sipping on herbal teas during that day. And then you can eat one meal. You can choose to eat one meal only during that day. If you're not used to fasting at all, you can include grains or cooked vegetables as one meal, and you can fast the rest of the day. So that is going to be allowing for you to digest the undigested foods. Then creating thirst also. Trut is something that is called in Ayurveda. We have some decoctions that are given in Ayurveda that can allow for removing any of the excessive. Your tongue is an indicator for what is happening in your abdomen. So this is also created. Then Vyayama, doing proper exercise is important. Another thing is exposing yourself to proper sunlight. Vitamin D has become very, very important now. If you check, all of us will probably have less vitamin D. This sunlight is also one way, because skin is our biggest mouth. And again, of course, making sure that you are protecting yourself when you're exposing yourself to sunlight is also important because of the ozone layer depletion and all of that. But sunlight is also mentioned as a way for you to, this is again, if you do a sunlight in the afternoon, if you soak in the sun in a beach, that will cause inflammation. Making sure that you are, indoors and getting sunlight while you are indoors is one way. Or you can walk with sun protection, with hat and everything, and you can walk in the morning before that very, very hot sun, potent sun comes out. Sunlight is also another important thing. And then exposing yourself to fresh air, anila, is also important. That breath, in Ayurveda, this breath, which is prana vayu, is the one that is very, very important for digestion and creating your good digestive fire. So just fresh air does not mean that, of course, you can be exposed to fresh air, but the breath work that you do to make sure that the rhythm is created in your body will actually create proper digestion as well. Yeah, it is very surprising, but we'll probably talk about that particular topic is a very big topic right now. I'm teaching a neurology course, and in that we spoke about how neurological conditions emerge because this pranavayu, which is your breath, is not reaching to a particular situation, to a particular place of the body. So doing this breath is important. So 7 things we spoke about: igniting your digestive fire, Deepana, removing the toxins, removing your undigested food, which is pachana, and we're also creating langhana, which is your fasting. Then we are creating thirst, and vyayama, which is exercise, and we're exposing to sunlight and exposing to fresh air. Yeah, so those are all the shamana. Then another important thing is panchakarma is very, very important in chronic inflammation. But I'll tell you, it is important to do panchakarma only if you are eligible. You are eligible for doing panchakarma. A lot of times I get a phone call. The first thing they ask is, can I get a panchakarma? Like, I have to decide if you're eligible for panchakarma or not. There is an eligibility criteria, you'll be surprised, which means your tissues must be strong enough to be able to handle this. Because panchakarma is not just abhyanga and shirodhara as it is portrayed. It is removing the deep toxins that have been staying within your tissues like this. And we have to be separating these toxins like this. When we're separating these toxins, there is a possibility that they can scrape off your tissues. We don't want that to happen. Yeah, because if your tissues are scraped off, then that can cause a lot of other problems. So making sure that there is good amount of tissue strength, and there must be good amount of toxins that are present in the body as well. Only then you're eligible. If not, we have all of those other 7 things that can be done. That's when panchakarma can be done, and that's going to be important. Yeah. So overall, what is the diet that you have to include when you have to stay away from this chronic inflammation in the body? The diet that you want to include is it must have all 6 tastes, with sweet taste as the most important one. Again, sweet taste, I am not saying you include sugar, sweet taste from the grains, but you must include all 6 tastes in your diet. Then making sure that there are spices like ginger, cumin powder, coriander powder, black pepper, and coriander, ginger, turmeric, if I did not speak about that again, pomegranate. These are all different spices that you can include in your diet. Basil, parsley, you can include those as well. And including good fats when you're cooking. Ghee is the most important one and comes number 1 in my list if you want to ask what is the number 1 cooking oil. Or you can use avocado oil, olive oil. It's okay to use those also, like using those kind of a cooling oil, but not very cold oil like coconut. Again, it depends. If you have like a kapha personality where there's a lot of accumulation, then you would not want to use coconut oil because it solidifies. If you already have a lot of pitta, then you don't want to use mustard oil. All right. So depending upon what your dosha is, or what is happening right now, is accumulation happening, is inflammation happening, or is drying happening inside the body. Depending on that, if there is vata more, if there's a lot of drying, then coconut oil, absolutely use it. That's okay. But then you cannot use coconut oil when there is a lot of mandagni, which is less digestive fire. So many different permutations and combinations you have to look out for. But ideally for ghee, you don't have to look out for a lot of causative factors. A lot of these don't exist. You don't have to worry about these different permutations and combinations. Olive oil and avocado oil are also okay. You can use them. Yeah. Then make sure that you include good quality.
Question about the oils and things like that. There's certain cultures, right, that are used to eating coconut oil, or I'm Bengali, for example, and culturally, people use mustard oil a lot. Is there some sort of genetic sort of adaptation that occurs?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And again, depending upon where you're born, that is the nature of that Bengali. I'm sure there's a lot of water, there's a lot of rain that happens there, no? And that's why there's a lot of kapha that is present. And to cut that, maybe mustard oil is recommended. And that's how generations have been passed that along, versus coconut oil is given in the dry areas so that you can make sure that there is a level of oleation that is given. And that's what I ask a lot of people. What is it that your ancestors were eating? Definitely not safflower oil. So what is it that your ancestors were used to? If they were used to mustard oil, then mustard oil is going to be what we call satmya in Ayurveda. Sa Atma, which is very beneficial for your genetics to be able to identify it and break it down. Yeah, so you can use whatever your ancestors were using, but always use the not the processed one. Don't unrefined is what you would have to use. Make sure you use good amount of lentils, and these lentils must be, if you're able to saute them first, make sure dry roast them first and cook them on open top, these lentils, then they're easy for you to digest. And make sure that you are adding good amount of ghee to your lentils so that they can break down properly. Then Sindhav salt is important. Add the good amount of Sindhav salt is going to be less inflammatory. And occasional fasting and freshly prepared warm and cooked meals. Warm cooked meals. I'm reiterating again. This is the mantra, warm and cooked meals. Then your lifestyle. Eating and sleeping according to the sun, according to your cycles, whatever is happening with the circadian rhythms. Exercise regularly on empty stomach. Do not exercise on full stomach. And what is it that you need to do on a daily basis? The dinacharya that you need to follow. Abhyanga on empty stomach. Doing nasya, 2 drops of nasal oil into your 2 nostrils. Alternate nostril breathing is another important thing. And very, very important, and this is something that I tell a lot of my clients, and most of you probably have a Sattva app, I always say do meditation. There's guided meditations. And if you're able to do that, you're able to remove the impressions that you're carrying, the impressions that you are experiencing and on a daily basis. So doing that with the breath work takes you, the inflammation is going to be addressed at a different level, because mind, body, soul connection is happening. So while we always say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, we also have to do these things, like doing your abhyanga, doing your nasya, doing your breath work, doing your meditation. This is something that you're increasing your own ROI when you do these things on a daily basis. Then you can take some rasayana if you want to, like we spoke about amla and chavanprash and shatavari and yashti, and these are all the rasayanas that you can take depending upon what is beneficial for you. Yeah. So I quickly wanted to just give you all of that bird's eye view of what inflammation is, so that we can stay away from it as much possible, the chronic inflammation or the global warming that is happening inside our body, and protect ourselves. Because you've seen, how much emerging autoimmune skin conditions have been emerging, and staying away from all of these, you don't have to worry about inflammation in the body. Chan, we will talk about those 20 foods soon. Favorite website for recipes? Good question, Lavanya. I would like to build it soon. I'm talking actually to a nutritionist in India to help me, because I'm a boring person when it comes to foods, because my needs are very, very minimal. That's why I don't come up with good recipes. But trust me, I'm actually talking with someone called, Sridevi Jas, who's in India, and I'm talking to her where she's going to help me curate some recipes and help my clients. So let's see if I can come up with that. I'll let you know. But Ayurveda Plated is something that I have curated some recipes for her, and I've told her, and that's a YouTube channel that I recommend all my clients. And those are some things that anti-inflammatory anti-inflammatory diets is something that she has done. So I can post it here on the chart. It is called Ayurveda Plated. Ayurveda Plated on YouTube. You can search for her and you'll be able to find that. Good brand of ghee. I would recommend a few things, actually, not just one thing. There is something called A2 cultured butter that you can get from Whole Foods, and you'll be able to make it yourself. Or there is Anaghaya brand based out of India, and they also are able to ship it to you directly. There is also let me see if I can find their link and post it right here. You can actually get it from them directly. They're based out of here in the United States. While I see other questions, I'll be able to find that link and I'll let you know. For me, what I do is I get raw milk. I get the cream from on top of it, make buttermilk, remove butter, and from that butter is how I make ghee. And that's the actual way that you must do ghee. But getting the A2 cultured ghee is one thing. Pure Indian ghee is actually good. You can try that. They have A2 cultured. Costco brand, I don't think is A2 cultured, Angela. I think they have Pure Organics or Ancient Organics is the brand that Costco carries. Yeah, Heber's Kitchen is good for recipes. They have good recipes. But Costco brand, they are, I don't think they're A2, and I don't think they're cultured. I have not tried it myself. So then we'll go to Chan's question, 20 foods that we need to take on a daily basis. The 20 foods are going to be, you'll be surprised that rice is in that list. And mung, which is your mung dal, is in your list. And ghee is in your list. What else? Milk, warm milk is in there. And I'm going to just make sure that I am going through my memory and telling you all of that. I'm not remembering the sutra. Usually I would remember the sutra and tell you, but I'm not remembering the sutra right now. But I know amla is there, pomegranate is there, raisins, grapes are there. But I'll get the list and I'll post it. Irish unsalted butter, is this okay? Is this cultured, Nilima? If it's cultured, then it's absolutely okay. Yeah, if it's not cultured, the problem is it is missing one part of the process. So it will not be digested fully. That's the problem. So you want to make sure that it is cultured. So if it is not cultured, then this is the cream that is taken on top of the milk. So milk, the process of making ghee is you want to boil milk. You take the cream. That cream is now fermented to make it into yogurt. And that yogurt is now churned into making buttermilk. Once you make buttermilk, you remove the butter. And this butter is the cultured butter. So because it has gone through so much processing, now it would have reached proper amount of heat in it. And this is a good amount of heat. Again, chronic inflammation is about having forest fire. And this heat is required for our digestion to happen properly. And this is a kitchen fire. We need kitchen fire for processing, no? So that is the difference. So that is why cultured ghee is going to be good, where it will not be causing any accumulation and where it will not be causing any ama in the body. Any other questions from anybody? Absolutely, Jayashree. Nishit, the process of making the ghee is okay. You boil milk on a slow boil. Make sure to wait until the cream is settled. What I do is wait until it becomes comes to room temperature. I refrigerate it so that a thick layer of cream is formed on top. I save these layers of cream. I make it into a yogurt. I culture it and make it into yogurt. After this yogurt is formed, we make it into buttermilk again, churn it, add good amount of water, churn it. Once you're making buttermilk, the butter is separated after the buttermilk is made. That separated butter is used to make ghee. Again, I think if you go to my Instagram, I have this listed. And you can also, go to Ayurveda Plated.
You make the yogurt out of the cream?
The cream, correct.
In the same way you make regular yogurt?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. We can actually make
Okay.
that session one time. Or we have a conference coming up in March. We're planning a cooking session and we might add making buttermilk and making ghee there, like this proper processing of making ghee there. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? I hope this was resonating for a lot of you. I didn't want to overwhelm. I just wanted to give you an overall picture of what inflammation is about. And I know last class we spoke about it and we were just elaborating on what we spoke about last week. And I gave you a few things. It seems to be like, things that we know already, but I would like for you to include it in your diet and actually experience it. You'll see the difference yourself. And you'll be able to boast off to your friends that you don't have global warming inside you. Yeah. Amazing. Very, very good. So having said that, it looks like all of you have gotten everything that I said, and you're all going to be practicing all of this. So if you're all okay, we can leave right now, and we will have our session again next month on the 4th Tuesday again. And if you want to suggest topics, you can always send me an email or send me a message, and we can talk about a different topic. Yeah, I didn't think about a topic, Namita. If you have a topic, you can suggest, and we can talk about that particular topic. I did not think about anything yet. You're more than welcome to suggest topics. Yeah. Perfect. I wish you all a very good evening, and I'll see you all next month. Thank you for joining. All right. Bye.